Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today we start Unit 28 Globalization. You must have found that your city has more labeled clothes than ever before. Brands like Nike, Reebok, and others, which were available in India, are now available. In big cities, fashion trends are very similar to other big cities of the world. Even TV programs have their global imports, which are localized, such as Kaun Banega Crorepati, Indian Idol. The global influences are being felt everywhere and all over the world. Bhangra and yoga are popular in the West as cheese and pizza, burgers have become part of our eating habits. At least in big cities and among the younger generation in India, big corporations now have offices in different parts of the globe where they carry on activities. So, corporations have gone global, and in that sense, so we have the production processes. There are people who work in India but who don an American accent and keep American time because they work for an international call center. People are traveling ever more on work, in search of work, or migrating to seek better lives. There is definitely much more movement of people and communication between people. A mother whose son lives in America not only is regularly in contact with her son and daughter-in-law, but might travel to stay with him a good part of the year. We are witnessing these changes in everyday life, but that question arises is how to understand the everyday ways in sociological terms and concepts. Secondly, how to make sociological sense out of common sense. The changes mentioned above are referred to as a process of globalization, while there are many debates on what exactly constitutes globalization, what are its chief characteristics, and where does it stem from. The changes that we are witnessing are probably or real. In this unit, we will try and understand the process of globalization through the various changes that are occurring in society and by following the different analyses offered by various scholars. There are many debates concerning globalization. We will also try and critically evaluate them. We will understand the term and process through the way globalization is revealed to us in its characteristics. Lastly, we will see the globalization process in the context of India. Now let us move to the point different ideas on what constitutes globalization. The term globalization has become a part of the vocabulary of all major disciplines, languages, cultures, and nations in the contemporary times. Given the increasing appeal of the term, numerous public debates and discussions on its constructive and destructive effects have been taking place in academia, political circles, and in the civil society. There is an ongoing controversy over the term globalization. Both enthusiasts and critics emphasize the broad range of its impact. In this section, we will take a broad sweep across a range of aspects that have been highlighted by scholars before we come on to some major debates. Let us see if we can separate some of these strands of discussion. One aspect which has been debated about is whether globalization is unique to present age. Was not the world always global? David Garden refers the recent globalization not as an unpredicted world transformation but as a relatively minor pace in long-term processes of the capital accumulation where, as the Paul Hirst and Graham Thompson comment on recent economic transformations as creating large trade blocs rather than forming an anti-state or non-state global economy. Almost all observers agree that global connections have been thickening for several decades, but the significance of that thickening remains contestable. The most common conceptualization of globalization is as a one-dimensional process of economic integration or interdependence that has been occurring on a very rapid pace in the current times. In this sense, R.G. Harris defines it as an economic process, that is, the increasing internationalization of the production, distribution, and marketing of goods and services. The two-dimensionality of the process covers economic integration facilitated by the new technology. As an example, for Thomas Friedman, globalization is that loose combination of free trade agreements, the internet, and the integration of financial markets that is erasing borders and uniting the world into a single lucrative but brutally competitive marketplace. Another aspect of this overwhelming economic view is that globalization is nothing but liberalization, which refers to a process of removing government imposed restrictions on the movements between countries in order to create an open borderless world economy. The evidence for such globalization in recent decades can be found in the widespread reduction or even abolition of regulatory trade barriers, foreign exchange restrictions, capital controls, etc. An aspect that many scholars are beginning to acknowledge is how globalization involves many dimensions of society. Taking it as multidimensional process, states globalization is transforming trade, finance, employment, migration, technology, communication, and the environment, social system, ways of living, cultures, and patterns of governance. Holm Sorensen view it as the intensification of economic, political, social, and cultural relations across borders. A World Bank publication defines globalization as the growing integration of economies and societies around the world. This is a complex process that affects many sectors of our life. A recent study by the United Nations conducted by Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean specifically highlights the multidimensional nature of globalization. It is noted here that the economic dimension of globalization acts concomitantly with non-economic processes, which have their own momentum and therefore are not determined by economic factors. One of the non-economic dimensions include ethical and cultural aspects, which Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean terms as globalization of values and refers to the gradual spread of shared ethical principles as manifested in Declaration on Human Rights, which has two main concerns: civil and political rights and economic, social and cultural rights. The globalization of values is increasingly manifested in the aspirations and formation of a global civil society, whose capacity for mobilization and the exchange of information has multiplied by the new information and communication technologies. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.